Right now, here today, I'm going to talk about Stan Swami. Alright? He was a very, very dangerous person. Mark my words for that. A very dangerous person. And if you don't believe it, keep watching. And listen, I don't care what kind of comments you are going to put down there in the box, because it doesn't matter. What I'm going to say today is what it is. Who was Stan Swami? Why was it necessary to keep him in prison? Five years ago, on the 5th of July, a person named Stan Swami died. Who was this Stan Swami, and why are we talking about him even today? Some people say he was a very good person. Some say he was a Catholic priest. Others say that he was a number one urban Naxal, a terrorist. Some persons say that he was plotting against the Prime Minister of India. Some are even saying that he should be declared a saint.
Of others, should Father Stan Swami have died? Died in this way? Why did it happen? Who is responsible for this? Was the Indian state threatened by Father Stan Swami?
Well, folks, a lot of questions, but let me tell you this. If anyone was to blame for Stan Swami's fate, it was Stan Swami himself.
I deeply appreciate the overwhelming solidarity expressed by many during these past 100 days behind the bars. At times, news of such solidarity has given me immense strength and courage.
Now, let's face it, okay? Stan Swami was a disruptor. Okay? He always wanted to challenge the status quo. Listen to what he had to say about what is the meaning of a movement.
What is a movement? A people's movement. That means people are involved there. People who are affected by a particular issue or a situation, and they feel they need to do something about it, and they come together. And in the process of coming together, a natural leadership from among them emerges. And the importance of a collective leadership is important in a people's movement.
Now, Stan believed that the Adivasi values, the traditional tribal values, have been watered down, okay, thanks to commercialization and all the rest of it.
So, the impact of a so-called modern economy, which is capitalist economy, has been absolutely devastative with regard to the Adivasi system. And I'm sure you are aware of the very cherished values that the Adivasi people have lived by. They all have kind of watered down. And once your value system is watered down, then what type of a movement can you give birth to? Then it is again geared towards gaining power. And in a so-called democratic parliamentary democracy, you have to win elections and come to power. And once you come to power, you enter into another scale of values.
Stan basically believed that all the Adivasi struggles fizzled out because the values were watered down.
So finally, there is hardly anything left of the Adivasiness, and it is superseded by the so-called modern society. So as such, the movements have not really been persistent in preserving the values and helping a people to struggle for their rights based on those values.
Where did Stan Swami get all these radical ideas from? This is an interview which she gave in 2018, all right, and it's on The Wire. And this is what he has to say about what actually drove him.
I was a very young person as the information as a Jesuit. I was teaching in a Hindi medium school in the tribal area in Chaibasa, Lupungotu. I used to spend my holidays with my students. I was also a hostel prefect. So with my students I would go spend the holidays in their living in their house and accepting their hospitality. Then I started to pursue to understand the cherished values of the Adivasi society. One morning, it was a summer time. We got up, went to the river, did our ablutions, came back. We sat on the pinda on the house with my young students. Then the father of the house, he had also gone to the river, he came back. There was a big mango tree in their yard and it was mango season. So he looked up the tree and he called his son. He said, "Son, go up the tree, that branch, bring down the fruits." So he went up, brought down the fruits, nice ripe mangoes. So he gave us, we all ate. But there was one branch where there were some nice fruits. He did not ask his son to bring those fruits. I thought he did not notice. So I picked up courage and told him, look at that branch. He casually looked at it and he said, "Oh, they are for the birds of the air. Those fruits are for the birds of the air." So nature has what has given us freely. We share with nature. This kind of, I kind of performed a somersault in terms of my value system. That it can be like this. You share what nature has given you with nature. So deliberately you leave one whole branch for birds of the air.
And so you see, there was this clash of value systems, and Stan was in the thick of it. On one hand, the state with its veering towards capitalism and capitalistic values, and on the other hand, you have the value system, the collective value system of the Adivasis.
Tuesday used to be the market day in Chaibasa. All the villages around would come there. I would go with my boys to the market just to see. As we entered, Chaibasa has 4 or 5 entries. And Adivasis from the villages, they would bring something or other to the bazaar. It is also a social get-together, you are aware. Especially Adivasi women may not come empty-handed to the bazaar. They have to bring something, either some eggs or sabji or a chicken or a goat. You sell it and then buy what you need and go. I saw more than once Adivasi woman having a chicken under her arm. She would come towards the market. But before she would enter Chaibasa town, the dalals of the merchants, petty merchants, he would come and snatch the chicken from her. She would shout and yell, "Kanya, Kanya." That means, "I don't want to give, I don't want to give." But it will be taken. And then he'll throw a dirty 5 rupee note at her like that. He wouldn't even give her in his hand. At that time, her chicken would be worth 20-25 rupees. She was given 5 rupees, a dirty note thrown at her. Then I said, "My God, what is happening? Here are a people who cherish their values and sharing things with nature. And here is another value system which just exploits them and deprives them of our human dignity, human respect." So once I saw this, then I used to ask my boys who were with me, I said, "You see what is happening?" They say, "Haan, father, dekhte hain." But don't we do something about it? Kya kar sakte hain? It is at that juncture I said, I want to make something of my life for these people. What exactly that something would be, I did not know.
One of the questions that Stan was trying to grapple with, and that is, how does the state, how do the non-tribals who are the dominant people in India, what is that mindset doing, and how does that mindset basically clash with the tribal values?
And the dream is still there with me. With all that has happened, with all that has gone through a center like Bagaita, we are trying to get people who are in struggle, struggling for their rights.
You see, Stan had a hand in many things. He was one of the people responsible basically of opening the people's eyes to their own unjust displacement. The Adivasis were always displaced. A dam has to come here, get out. A mining corporation wants this land, get out. We need to establish a heavy engineering corporation here, get out.
What we did was, people started to resist unjust displacement. So we tried to bring them together. We have succeeded, at least partially. We have brought together 60 to 70 groups who are resisting displacement in their own places under some umbrella organizations, two or three such organizations. And express some mutual solidarity to each other. If you receive a notification saying that you have to vacate your village in the next 2 months, you will inform us. And all of us will come on a particular day you appoint and stand shoulder to shoulder with you and say, we will not move. So, jaan denge, zameen nahi denge is not an empty word.
And what do you expect? The man was right there churning up all the local people, okay, against who? The Adanis, the big businesses. So what do you expect? Do you expect that the government is going to keep quiet?
So I myself have gone to several such situations, some of them of a very precarious nature. We were surrounded by armed police surrounding us, but things have to be done. So this type of a resistance to unjust displacement and the land alienation has taken place and is going on even now. This is an achievement of the people which you and I must recognize.
State made for Adivasi, Jharkhand state, was actually in a way anti-Adivasi. Now, why was that?
We have had, I think, 6 or 7 Adivasi chief ministers during these 15 years. And for once, we have a non-Adivasi as the chief minister. Let that be. Whether it was an Adivasi or a non-Adivasi who have been on the realm of governance, they all have been sold to this capitalist system, where you think the more investment you get, the so-called development takes place. So they are being carried away, and in the process, is also to see how much money I can make in the process. So the whole game is there.
Stan's activism and his being a part of people's resistance, okay? He was not one of those priests who just say mass and then just say prayers and whom you can basically, okay, accuse of religious conversion and all that stuff. He wasn't one of those, okay? He was really, really radical, and that is what made many big shots shake in their boots.
104 MOUs were signed by Jharkhand state with as many companies, but only about half a dozen of them have been able to open shop in Jharkhand, the big companies. And how did they do that? Either by cheating the people or by frightening them, threatening them. So, and people are beginning to see that through.
His resistance, especially to Adani's many companies, would naturally have consequences.
Now people have to take one step further. That is where, like the 2013 Supreme Court judgment very briefly stated, the owner of the land is also the owner of the mineral, of the subsoil mineral in his land, which I think is a significant thing. So people have to assert themselves and say, it's not just we will not give our land and then be displaced, but we are going to take the riches that is in our land.
And then what happened? Stan got the ultimate toolkit in a Supreme Court judgment. And that's when the real game starts.
These days, wherever I go, I take the Supreme Court judgment, I made it into a summary of a 2-page, just the basic points, and translated it into Hindi. I carry with me and I show them, look, here is a judgment. There is Koila or Loha or whatever it is, you assert your ownership. If anybody raises a question, show him the Supreme Court judgment. So, in some places, especially in Hazaribagh, in Karanpura area, which is a rich agricultural land, but it is also the subsoil coal. So NTPC is after that, and the government wants to give it, but people are resisting. They are not giving. So it is not just resisting giving land to a company, but to say this land is ours, and whatever riches there is, it is also ours, and we have a right.
He began confronting the state with this judgment, and that was a major pain in the nether regions for the state and their cronies.
So people, Gram Sabhas have to do it. It cannot be done by individuals. Gram Sabha, again, based on the traditional leadership, the Munda Manki system. This is one way of reviving it. You see, the traditional system cannot be revived in the abstract. It can only be revived based on concrete achievement that is possible. Here is a possible situation.
What a headache, Stan was a major headache for the government of the day, because he stirred up all these Gram Sabhas, and now you're going to have the people there armed with, legal documents.
Our friends are trying to help them to seize their rights over the forest. It's not just because the government passed a law in 2006, so-called Forest Rights Act, that people have the rights. No, people have had the right all along. But now finally some recognition has come about. Okay, that's good. So we are not dependent on what laws the government will pass or will not pass, but go back to our roots, our traditions, and say this is how we related to nature, this is how we owned nature, not so much as individuals, but as a community. And we go back to that.
So was it a surprise that this fellow was called an anti-national? Was it a surprise that Stan Swami was called an urban Naxal? After all, he and his friends were trying to stir up the Vanvasis into demanding their legitimate rights.
So, several Gram Sabhas have started to do that. In some places, the local administration objected, so they showed the Supreme Court judgment. And those fellows had not even heard of such a judgment or seen that judgment. So, it is going on. This type of effort, if it becomes part of people's movement without wanting it to become a global movement, a movement that it takes in the whole of Jharkhand. But wherever people are, if they can start this type of a movement, asserting their right, nature-given rights, which is a predominant right over any other right given by any law or by any government or a court. Based on their rights, if they can proceed, That I see as the only possibility by which our people can live as a people.
This 87-year-old chap, you know what he did? You know what he did? He put a case, he was going to fight a case against the government of Jharkhand for incarcerating, for jailing thousands of young Adivasis falsely and illegally. You know, armed with the documents.
In this process, I have filed a case against the Jharkhand state in Jharkhand High Court on behalf of about 3,000 young Adivasis who are languishing in the jail. It is this which became a bone of contention with the state, and they wanted to put me out of the way.
Now, the only thing to do was to somehow get this fellow out of the equation. So, some people, to please some big capitalists, basically planned to lock Father Stan Swami away.
You're watching Reality Check. We are breaking an NDTV exclusive. NDTV has accessed a new report by US-based forensic laboratory which shows how incriminating evidence was planted on the computer of a key accused in the Bhima Koregaon case by a cyber attacker. This was the same case in which 84-year-old tribal rights activist Stan Swami was an accused. He died in a Mumbai hospital waiting for bail. Till the end, Swami, like the others in the case, maintained that the key evidence against them brought by the National Investigating Agency, supposed letters from Maoists, was planted on their computers. Now, the new report by the Massachusetts-based Arsenal Consulting bolsters that claim, even raising the possibility that Swami's computer may have been targeted.
A frightened system locked this old man away. A person suffering with Parkinson's, a person who was frail, okay? You put the entire might of the state against him, right? You don't give him bail. You just want to keep him in there so that he doesn't ever make it out.
That in a way, I am happy to be part of this process because I'm not a silent spectator, but I'm part of it, part of the game, and ready to pay the price, whatever be it.
So, and now you know, folks, why Stan Swami was really dangerous. I rest my case.